tell me, just say something. Say yes. Say if you haven't, say nay.
We be
completely.
we begun, but it's a long read.
Nay.
Is it long?
Nay.
Okay. But you started looking at it.
Yes, I've got.
And how far have you gone? Who has looked at it? Raise your hand. Let's see if you have looked at it.
Mr. Timler, what was the question, please?
Okay, we used the PDF in the last class. So you want
Yeah,
talk
yes,
about the part of the UiPath Studio? Yeah. So
Mr.
who has,
Blizzard,
I cannot. Who is talking?
it's George.
Okay,
Me, sir.
George.
I'll check.
Yeah, what happened, George?
Yeah, I think we're there yesterday on. I've gone through it. So that yesterday on was the one that end with the hello world. That it end with hello world, right?
Okay, so you finished it. The
Yes,
whole 139 pages.
We're just introducing to the UiPath environment, all the different area, the property, the activities,
Yeah.
all the environment. Just review on all the environment, and then at the end of the day, we'll now end up with the first robot, designing the first robot, which is Hello World. So I've gone through the whole material.
Okay, George, that's good. That's good. I can see Robert too has his hand up. So Robert has gone through it. Kehinde, Obikoya, and any other person who maybe for some reason they feel shy, they don't raise their hand. Okay, Sam's hand is up. Daniel, Jesus hand is up. Faith, Justin, Chinda, Clinton. Well, you can see that a large number of people have gone through the material. So thank you. Let's just do a brief recap of everything we did in the last class. I know everyone is excited because we started using our UiPath Studio. Using our UiPath Studio, we built our first robot. Everybody saw how message boxes work by displaying our data, in this case, on our screen. And I know some of us also had issues with our studio installation. Has anyone fixed theirs, or are we still having issues? Is anyone still having issues with their studio? If you're having issues, raise your hand. Let's see. We can try and fix that before we go into today's topic. Okay, no hands up then. I guess everyone. Okay, Kehinde, your hand is up. Kehinde, so what is still happening with your studio?
Sorry, that was a mistake. I was trying to bring it down.
Okay then. All right. Looks like everyone here is set up. Everyone here has run the Hello World, and hopefully, I hope you guys have, tried other variations of the first automation, tried making changes, and you've explored around the UiPath Studio. If you read through the PDF explains the parts of the UiPath Studio to you and what each part does. So I hope you guys have looked at it and have started exploring on your own. So exploration breeds more interest. When you see things that you haven't seen before, you want to know how they work, what purpose they serve. So,
hello, sir.
Hello, who's that?
Yeah, it's Obikoya.
Obikoya.
I just wanted to ask for your email. I didn't get it yesterday. I have some little automations that I would like to share with you so that
okay, you have my email was in the chat yesterday, but I'll type it again.
All right, sir.
It's timilen99@gmail.com. Timilen with a Y. At Gmail. So it's in the chat again. Check it. Check it. Okay, so as I was saying, I hope you've all looked at it. So let's recap. As we always do, recap our last class to make sure the knowledge even if not everything, but let's at least 70% of the knowledge stick in our heads. Oh, and like let's say I have news for you guys. Will I call it news? Okay, it's news, but will I call it good news or bad news? I don't know. We're going to have like a mini or quiz or test, mini quiz tomorrow. Okay. I mean that the quiz actually has no consequence on much things, just to prepare you guys for how the exam is going to be and prepare you guys on how to take quizzes, because you need to do that regularly in the course of preparing for your exam. So you can note that down. So tomorrow we have a quiz, and next week we might have more quizzes. I don't want it to be something simple and short, maybe like 10 questions on what we did in the previous class. Okay. Nobody's responding.
All right, sir.
Sir, so is it going to be quiz or how is the exam going to be, sir?
You guys sound sad. Kennedy.
Sir, my question is it going to be in what will I call this? Is it going to be objective? Are we answering it here, or is it one-on-one kind of?
So it's going to be objective. Actually, it's going to be on the LMS. So you just, I'll create a quiz on the LMS, then you guys will go and answer it there. So
Right,
you guys should, for anyone that hasn't logged into the LMS, they should do that before tomorrow. If you're having issues, I think my email is there. Send me an email and you look at your issues together. Okay, Ben.
Okay, sir. Good evening, sir. Can you hear me?
Good evening, I can hear you.
Okay, my question is kind of related to the person who just asked now, but I want to know, is the real exam objective or something we do here one-on-one?
The real exam is objective. Objective, and there are other types of questions there. Like, I think there are drag and drop questions. Like where you have to match two different answers. They are picking from a drop-down menu. But in summary, you can do just do it on your own on your computer. Just sit down. It's not practical. It's not a practical exam. So it's something you just type or select as the questions come along. So does that answer the question, Eben?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Kieran also have a question.
So thank you, sir. At the end of the LMS introductory page, there is a practice. They say practice lesson or something like that to practice everything. So I want to know if you take the exam, will they record your score or it's just
so on the practice? No. It's just for anyone to practice at their leisure or whenever they want in preparation for the exam. So we have a bank of questions on our LMS. That's every time you access the practice test, it shuffles questions. So it brings out a new set of questions from, not new, but random set of questions from the question bank. So you can just use it to test your knowledge, test how prepared you are for the exam when that time comes. So if you want to start now, you can start now. Okay, Kieran. Daniel Mabatunde.
I have a question.
Okay.
Sir, my question is, okay, sir. Where can we locate the LTM, LMT?
Yes.
The link that you said we should go and create it. We use it for the test.
The LMS is highmarkacademy.tech. Highmarkacademy.tech.
We should go and
I would like to believe that everyone here, apart from those who are just joining us newly, would have enrolled into the course on the LMS and created accounts on it too. Create an account first, then enroll into the course. But should have done those two things at this point in time, because I mean, Danny, you're not new. I think I've seen you in our past two classes. So
I'm not new, sir.
yeah, I know I've seen you. You're very active. So I've seen you. So and you're telling me you've not created an account on the LMS yet.
I don't know that it's also LMS, so that I'm asking that which one is.
Okay. But you have an account on our website, basically.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, then that's good then. All right. Okay, so you're set. So I'll just when it's time for the quiz or test, I will tell you guys where to go, and it should be something simple, as I said before.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, Nelson.
Sorry, sir. My network. I had that
Yes, sir.
in my network. Come again, sir,
Yeah.
please.
Nelson, your hand is up, though.
Yes, sir. So please, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, so please, I want to ask the test, will it be based on what you taught us so far, or it will be a general test on robotic process automation?
It to be based on what I have taught you guys so far.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not something that something that I taught you guys so far, and also something I think should have known. Because I can't teach you everything. I can teach you maybe
Definite. Yeah, definite.
80% of things.
Yes.
So you have to do your own self research too.
Yes.
So I think something I think you should have, or it has to be on things I think you should have covered in the class.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Because
Yes,
so
sir.
far we've covered two topics completely. That is robotics, RPA basics, and introduction to UiPath.
Yes.
So it might be on those two, and then some things in what we do
Very
today
good.
and tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Pelumi.
Thank you very much, sir. You are talking about a test, so my network was a bit bad, not quite long, so I just joined in back. So I never heard what you were talking about.
I just said that there will be a test on Friday, that is tomorrow, on what we have done so far. Just to, as I said, and the test does not carry any consequence per se, just to gauge, just to help us get used to the feeling of taking tests, getting assessed, so we can get the right mindset to prepare for the exam.
The test will be done.
I did not hear that, Pelumi.
Is it going to be face-to-face encounter or?
No, it's going to be online. It's going to be on the LMS. I trust you've already created your account and enrolled to the course on the LMS.
Okay.
Have you?
Okay. I wanted to ask a question, but skip my mind. I'll ask later. Thank you very much.
Okay, then allow me the judge.
Yes, sir, Mr. Pelumi. About the test, it's going to happen on next week, Friday, sir.
No, tomorrow,
Is
not
it
next
next week,
Friday.
Friday?
Tomorrow.
Hey.
It's going to be tomorrow. What did
Don't
I
worry.
say? It's nothing
Bring it on,
large.
bring it on, bring it on.
Good, that's the spirit.
Is it going to carry grade or just to check
just to check
our brain box?
just to check your brain box, just to put you in the right mindset,
Okay.
preparing for the exam. It doesn't mean that it cannot be used eventually. So,
Okay.
put your best into it.
But Mr. Pelumi, don't give us the solid one, please.
I won't give you more than what I've taught you guys. So
Thank you, sir.
Okay, yeah,
Even though it was what you have taught us.
I've done my part, so you guys also do your part. Go and research. But I want you guys to get to a point where you look at the questions and you say that this thing is so easy now that you can say something better on your own. You guys should research to that point. And believe me, when the real exam comes, you will see it's like something too cheap. Okay, so
sorry, sir. Sorry, sir. Are you going to call the names or we do it?
No, I'm going to create the test on the LMS. So you just go there and do it, and it will grade it for you. So you'll see your score, you see how well you performed, and other things. Yeah. Somto, your hand is up. Sir. I cannot hear you clearly.
Yes.
Somto, can you speak louder? I can hear you faintly.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. I wanted to confirm, when will the test be by what time, please?
Friday, that's tomorrow. And for time. It's going to be after your break. So that will be 9 o'clock.
Sorry, if you don't mind, can you give an email so I can write an email regarding it, please?
Okay. My email is in the chat already. Similary99@gmail.com. Scroll through the chat and see it.
Okay, I've seen it. Thank you.
Yeah, all right. You're welcome. Look. Modena. Can you mute yourself, please?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
All right, sir. I joined the class late. So I was hearing you talking about tests. So I just want you to brief me on the test.
Sir.
Okay, so as I said, the test is going to be on the LMS tomorrow. It's going to be on the things you've done so far in class, that is RPA basics, introduction to UiPath platform, in the steps in making a process or the end-to-end process for automation, and I mean everything we've done so far, and everything we'll do today also.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. This is Kendi, sir. Sir, does that mean every Friday, weekly, this test is going to be coming up? That's my question, sir.
So it's not every Friday, sir. As I deem it fit, or as they deem it fit, as the higher ups deem it fit. Because as I said, the reason why we want you to do this test is so that you guys will be in the right mindset. You guys will know. I mean, I won't say you guys know the pressure, but you guys will know the feeling of taking tests regularly, and you know how to approach tests that are timed, how to work with time, and things like that. Because the real exam is going to be timed, and in the same format basically, which is multiple choice and other types of questions. Nothing theoretical or practical there.
Sir. Okay, sir. But
Hello, sir.
Does that mean the test is going to be timed too?
Yes, it's going to be timed.
And we are also having classes tomorrow, sir.
Yeah, it's going to be part of the class time. So you just take 15 minutes off class to do the test. Then come back, continue doing whatever we are doing.
All right, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Right.
Hello, sir. This is Luke, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you, Luke.
Okay, sir. Please, I want to ask you. Ask us that we should create an account on LMS. That is a highmarkacademy.tech.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I've tried checking it, but it's kind of giving me an. I checked it and tried to sign up, but it was giving me some kind of error message.
What was the error message?
It is showing me
It's showing me error database connection failed.
Okay, I know why that is happening. So just refresh your page.
Okay.
Just refresh. You should clear. We are trying to empty database or clear it for people that were in the last. Because we've had two classes, two sessions, two sets. So trying to modify our base database. That's why you are getting that error.
Thank you,
Daniel, refresh it and it should work. Daniel Chizu.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Okay, I just want to say that most of these questions that are being asked, if we can also help, at least the comment section is there. These persons can drop their comments there, and some of us who are here can also help in answering some of these questions so that the class can go on.
Okay, noted. So
I mean, much more with that, please.
Okay. If you heard Daniel, if you have questions, type your questions in the chat. And I'll take two more questions before, and the rest of you can type it in the chat. So Joseph and Faith Justin, the rest of you, put your questions in the chat and your mates will help you.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yes, I want to appreciate for the class, how you lenient with us. But I want to say something because coming to class like this, most of us we have objectives and we really want to get something at the end of the day. So many persons just opening up their microphones and speaking out because
I can't feel the static on your end.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you now.
Okay. I'm trying to say, just as Daniel has said, some of us coming to this platform, we have this agenda of coming to learn. So questions coming in, just people opening up their microphones to just speak at will. It should be regulated so that we can all get the purpose of coming to this platform. Anybody that has question that he feels some other persons may know the answer, you should just drop it in the comment section so that somebody who knows it can just attend to the person instead of interrupting the class and at the end of the day not gaining anything. Thank you, sir.
Okay, great. So that's noted. But I think I said it yesterday also that our class is going to follow a certain format. At the beginning, we would go over what we did in last class and maybe answer questions. Then start the main thing for today. Take our break, continue, then questions. So this is part of the intro. Can everybody that's not talking mute themselves. So Faith, I hope you got what I said.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I was saying at the course of the class, in case.
Yeah, I get. Thank you for that suggestion. And Joseph.
Yeah, thank you very much. My question is for us to get the PDF, the previous training.
All the PDFs are on the LMS, so that should not be something you are looking for now.
Please, can Zeno please mute herself, please? She's making noise. You can't hear.
Okay, I'll check it out. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay, so if you have any more questions, put them in the chat and someone will attend to you. We can all lower our hands now. Okay, yesterday we looked at the UiPath platform, part types of Studio X, Studio whatever, and I hope you guys went to the PDF. So our time is ready. Time is spent. And we talked about whether I asked if any of us has explored further into the UiPath Studio and looked at other things. So we're moving forward to a new concept, or not really a new concept. It's an old concept that we did not really dive into. but we would now be doing that now. So we've been hearing about RPA development, RPA deployments. I want to make a process RPA deployable. So who can just from their own understanding tell me what a process is with respect to what's it called RPA now? What is a business process? What is a process? Can anyone raise up their hand? Me.
You said regarding what we did yesterday, right?
Regarding what we've been doing since. So, like we are going to a new topic now. So I'm asking, can anyone from their knowledge or whatever or what we've been doing since? Yes, as I said, we've been talking about making processes RPA deployable. So what is that process? Like, who can define what that process means in their own words now? I mean, there's no bad answer. The only answer is no.
Understanding. I think the process has to do with a logical sequence. And a vivid example would be maybe, let me say, flowchart. It has a few processes that
a logical sequence. Yes, I like that. I like that term. Logical sequence.
Logical sequence.
Yes, thank you, Pelumi. Thank you. Let's say what Ibe wants to say. Ibe, what's the process in your own terms, or on your own terms, your own words? Yeah, your own words. Okay, Ibe has dropped his hand. Robert L.A. I hope I pronounced the name well.
Yeah, it's fine. Good evening.
Good evening.
So when we talk about processes, we're talking deploying processes or deploying RPA processes. So we're talking about how we can develop a pattern, a flow for business operations.
See that? So the word I like there is flow. Yes.
Please, can I say something, sir?
Is your hand up? Who is that?
Yes, sir.
Who is that? Who is talking?
It's Daniel.
Daniel. Sorry. Can someone mute this? An echo. Daniel, there are about 5 people before you. So
sir?
You said, Daniel, there are about 5 hands up before you, so they have to answer before you talk. So let's have Kieran tell us what a process is.
Okay, so in my own words, I think a process is something or that has a beginning and an end that is guessed as well, that can be guessed. So like the beginning and the end is normally follows the same pattern.
Okay, pattern. Yeah, I'm hearing some interesting words. Pattern, logical process, flow. I mean, you are all on the right track. So you guys can put your hands there. Let me define a process for you. How it's defined in the UiPath. UiPath, I call it realm, or UiPath scheme of things. A process is a set of interrelated activities that works on inputs and transforms them into outputs. It's a set of activities that are linked to themselves, that are related to themselves, that follow a logical sequence and makes an input into an output. Okay? And processes have various.
Sorry, sir. Come again, sir. Sorry, sir.
So I said a process is a set of activities that are related.
Interrelated.
Yes, that are related, or that are interrelated, and works with inputs, transforming them into outputs. That is, the processes take an input, and then they have an output also. Okay. An example of a process can be maybe taking taking, taking an invoice and then extracting the commission. I think someone said that in the class yesterday. Taking a process and extracting commission. So taking an invoice and extracting commission. So the invoice will be the inputs, and then what will be the output now, Daniel Babatunde? That process. Daniel Babatunde, or anyone that thinks you know the
Can I
answer.
answer, sir?
Yes, you can answer.
Okay, the output should be the commission, which he suggested yesterday would be sent out as an email.
So the output to be the commission. Okay, so and each process has various components or various parts that all fit together to make it work. And these components include the inputs, and the input, that is what is being submitted, or the data that is being inserted into the process. It also has the flow, the process flow. I think someone said flow. So we have flows, that is the activities, the set of activities that are related to themselves that flow from one point to the other, that flow from the beginning to the end of the process. We have process flow, and then we have the applications that are used in the process. So in the case of the example I gave about invoices, so take for example the invoices in PDF format. Okay, now the application we will use in that case would be maybe a PDF reader like Adobe, or use our browser like Chrome. So our applications are the tools or systems that are used to perform the activities or perform the things in the process flow. And then we have our output, which is the data we want to extract, or the thing that has been generated by the process. Okay, so that means we have four components: the inputs, the process flow, the source applications, and the output. Now, there's another term which we will need to know. That is, someone mute. Another term we need to know, which is a procedure. Now, a procedure is similar to a process, but with additional details. Like a procedure now is essentially a process, but now we have to include the definition or the description of the process. That is, you describe what it does. We have to. Who's that? A procedure that is essentially a process with additional details. And when the process has things like the description of the process, that is what the process does, has things like who is tasked with doing, or what resource is tasked with performing any action, and has things like what person is responsible for creating whatever process you're going to do. That's when you can call a process a procedure. Now, okay, I've given examples of processes. An example of a procedure now would be, okay, so let's take our same example of getting commission from an invoice. Now we can have a document which will state our procedure, and in that document now, yes, Olamide, right?
Please, can you repeat that procedure again? Sorry, sir. The definition of it. So it's a process that includes a description of
the activities that are going to be performed, has the list or details the resources and things that will be tasked with performing a part of the process. It also explains, like the procedure now also explains what person is in charge of each part of a process. And it tells us other information about it, tells us more information about it and how it's going to work, or what errors they should expect, what things they should be working with in the process. And I was saying that example of a procedure using our
Okay, so I said I have issues. Yeah.
Who said they have issues? Okay, continue.
So I said I have issues with the procedure part. I had the network.
Okay, so come again one last time. A procedure. Okay, you know what a process is, right? A set of activities that are interrelated and works on inputs, transform them into outputs. That is a process. Now, a procedure is essentially a process with added information like which person is in charge of what part of the process, what resources will be used for the process, the potential errors that may occur and how to handle them, and then let's say the goals, not the goals per se, but then the aim and the functions that the process should perform. Did you get that now?
Not really, sir.
Not really. Okay. Okay, so a procedure is a process with this. Let me put in point now with these additional details. You can write details down or note it down somewhere. That it has what resources are tasked with each part in the process. Like what resources are used in each part of the process. It is added with details on the specifications that apply to each part of the process. It has the potential errors that could occur in the process and how to handle them. And it has how and when each process is going to occur. So a procedure is basically a process with those 4 extra details. Okay.
You can proceed, sir.
Yes. And I was saying, let's look at.
Sorry, before you continue, not to disturb. Can I get this on the course outline for yesterday?
Course outline. No, this is a different material, but then I would put it on the LMS.
Please, thank you, sir.
After today's class, this is not the LMS. Okay, so we're looking at our example of extracting commission from an invoice. Now, for the first additional detail, which is what resources or who is responsible for each part of the process, and we can say that we can include that in a document that we want the let's say customer agents to be the one in charge of the process. That is, if it's attended, in charge. So that it will be stated in the procedure document that so and so is in charge. Then for how and when each process is going to occur, that is basically stating the steps that will be used to build the process. It's stating that, okay, we need to open the PDF. Maybe you need to open the PDF, then read the PDF or locate a certain piece of information from the PDF. So then the next step would be how to handle errors, or what kind of errors. So now it's possible that in a PDF, the commission thing is over a certain range. Because let's say we only want to process accounts, small accounts. We can assume that we can tell the developer that once we see commission over a certain amount, we should do an alternate process to that. So that is an example of something that might occur and we want to, or an error that might occur, and how we would fix or navigate around the error.
Sorry,
And then, yes?
Please, can you use another example apart from that invoice and commission, please?
Okay, so who can suggest a process now? Hello, since you want a different example, suggest a process now, and we will work with that.
Weather report.
Weather report. Okay, so let's say we are in a weather reporting agency and we want the robot to look through the, let's say we have a machine that, let's say, reads the temperature, for example. I mean, temperature is part of weather details. It reads temperature and stores it somewhere. Now we want to create a bot that would, look through the temperature, then let's say calculate the average and output that for our report, for our weather news. Okay, so that's a process now. Did you all get that?
Go online, like use Google, like use browser, then go online, scrape weather report for a particular area.
Okay, scrape weather reports. Okay, scrape it for a particular area. Same concept. So let's go with that. Now, our first part or first additional detail is what resources and who is in charge of it. So the resources you would need would be, let's say, it would be to be a browser in this case, which is what we use to look for the data. Or let's say if it's a machine we are using to read it, that machine will be part of our resources. And the person in charge will be, let's say, the news anchor. I'll just give you an example. It might not be that way in reality, but I'm just giving an example of what it could be. The news anchor can be the person in charge. So you already have those two details for the first set. Second set of details is how each part of the process needs to occur, how and when. Now, the steps to doing that will be to look at the browser, open the browser, open the browser, navigate to the page we are looking for, scrape the data, then save the data somewhere. We just note those steps down. Note it down and note down a document basically. And that is our second set of information in the procedure, I think it's called a PDD, basically procedure description document. So in the PDD, second step is a second set of details. The third step of the set of details is potential errors and how to handle the errors, right? Now, it's possible that when we are scraping data on the website, there might be some mistake in the indentation. Like some data may not be in the right place, because I'm assuming that where we're getting data from now, all the information is in a table. So let's say we have for Lagos 50 degrees, Kaduna, so and so. So it's possible that Lagos now, or let's say Port Harcourt, might not have an entry. Now that will be blank. That is an error that can occur. And we will state that if the error is blank, or if the space is blank, we should just keep it. So there are activities for that in UiPath. When we get there, you will see how that is done. It's also possible that some temperatures might be in a different what you call a different grade. We have Celsius and Fahrenheit. It's possible that it might be in a different grade. We would make sure to look at it and convert to the one you want to use. So those are two potential errors, and how to work with them that we would include in our documents, our procedure documents. And then the last one is stating what we want the process to do, the output, the outcome, the needed outcome, and the specifications that it must follow. So you might say we want this document now to be able to get at least 50 or at least 10 accurate temperature readings before we can consider it to be a good return on investment. So putting that in document now would alert the developer on what to do and how to work on the workflow to make sure it meets that specification or it meets that goal. Who is that? Did you all get what I just explained? Should I come again?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
One.
sir.
Let's come again. Okay, so the process. Let's define a procedure is a process or a process with additional details. And the details that I said added to it would be what resources is responsible for each part of the process, how and when each part of the process is going to happen, how to handle errors, how to handle potential errors, and things that we may not want in the process, and the outcome, the wanted outcome and specifications that the process needs to follow or needs to attain. Okay, is that clear to everyone now? What a procedure is or how a procedure differs from a process. Then we take an example of
Sorry, sir.
process.
Instead of distracting your class, can you hear me, sir? Can you hear me,
Yeah,
sir?
I can hear you.
Sorry. Instead of distracting your class, I would suggest maybe after now you drop the link to the Telegram group, or even make a PDF for what you just said and keep it in the LMS.
Okay, thank you, Iben. I will take an example of a process that wants to scrape data from the internet, scrape temperature data for a weather company on the internet. So now the first set of information is what resources are responsible, or what resources are tasked with any part of the process. And now we can see that our resources now will be the browser, the computer we will use, the browser that is going to search for the temperature results from. Then what else can be a resource? The person that's going to be in charge, which in this case might be the news anchor, and other things basically. Then the next set of information is how each part of the process is going to occur. That is what steps and when it's going to occur. Okay, so the steps now would be to open your browser, go to the website, look at the table, locate the temperature, then copy and save into the database. And then the next set of information is the potential errors. Okay, and how to work around them or work with them. And I said that some errors I can think of that would happen now is, take for example, some cities or some places might not have a temperature reading, maybe because the person that's recording it there is running late or something happened to whatever device they use to measure temperature there. So it might be empty. And then we have to tell our robot that if it's empty, it should not crash, it should just skip. So that is something you can put there. And then another potential error is the temperature being in a different scale from what we want. So now we have, you have Celsius, Fahrenheit, you have Kelvin. Now, let's say if we look at your table now and we see something like 298 degrees Kelvin, we know that is an error because there's no way the weather for a place will be more than 293. I mean, let's assume we're working in Celsius. And we see 298. Now we know for sure that we can't have 298 degrees Celsius weather in a place. So I mean that's obviously an error that we will have to train our robots to work to put in perspective. So
In order.
yes, put in order. So the robot would know that okay, once it passes 100 degrees, it's no longer Celsius. Even 100 is actually too much. But let's just use the standard. Once it passes 100, we know it's no longer in Celsius. And other other criteria that the business would decide on. And then the last thing is the wanted outcome and specifications that would apply to the process. Now we might want that our process should get at least 10 valid temperature readings. The developer would know what to do, what to look at, what to work with. Okay. So did you all get that now? Is that clear enough to anyone?
Can you tell us the last one? Specification to the
So,
the
sorry,
last
please,
one.
are you sharing your screen?
No, I'm not sharing my screen.
Okay.
I'm not sharing my screen.
The last example is specification.
Yes, specifications like the wanted outcome and specifications that would apply to the process. Okay, so all these things should be in order for you to call a process or for you to make a process into a procedure. Okay. Now, so that is just the side, side topic I needed you guys to know. And we did not talk about in the last class before we go into what we are doing for today. Okay, so today we'll be working. I mean, we've all used UiPath Studio, and we've all created our first process, our hello world. Now we'll be talking about variables and arguments. Okay, let me. Oh, I think I closed the material. You guys give me 1 minute or 2 minutes. Let me open the material for today's class. We're talking about variables and what you might call it, variables and arguments. Now, variables. What's a variable? Who can define a variable for us? I mean,
So I can. Variables are letters.
Letters. Okay, letters. Okay, that thinking about variables in maths now, but it's not a wrong answer, but it's just not applicable to this
Variables
scope.
are from A to Z.
Not right. Not totally right.
Hello.
Hello.
Can I?
Who is?
Sir,
You guys should calm
Can I
down.
try?
You guys
Can you unmute
should
yourself? Let him
calm
speak,
down.
please.
You guys should mute yourselves. I'm making noise. Zion, what's the variable?
Okay, I'll just go straight to the point. That is a bit English. Look, for me, just look at the variable like
Excuse
a
me,
container.
sir. Please allow us to raise our hand and please call anybody you like. Everybody's
Yes, that's
saying
the
something
plan.
at the same time. It's not working well.
I think I've said it before. If you want to answer a question, raise up your hand and I'll call you.
My hand is
Yes,
number
sir.
one.
Okay, can I continue?
Zion, yes.
Okay, look at the variable as a container that holds value. It could be alphabet, it could be just
yes. A variable
putting
is a
things together that
container.
is unique. So the keyword there is container that holds value.
A variable is a container that holds value.
That holds a
True.
value. So you could say variable first name is equal to Simon.
Yes. So when someone was saying letters A, B, C, D to Z, yes, you can have a variable A. But then for it to be a variable in this context now, it has to hold something. Even if you're just holding empty space, it has to hold. You can't just have A and say your A is a variable. Your variable has to hold data or hold. Okay, let me share my screen. Hold some information. And in UiPath now we have different types of variables, which we'll look at. Can you all see my screen now?
Yes.
Good.
Yes, we can see your screen, sir.
Okay, good. We have different types of variables. Thank you. Thank you. That you can work with depending on what kind of project you are working on. Because we don't expect the same type of variable we use to handle letters to be the same type of variable we use to handle images. Okay. So as Zion said, the variable is a container that is used to store something, store information, store data. Okay. And you can see using variables are very necessary in programming because it helps us to move data from one point in the process to another point. Who is that person? Uche. A variable is used to transmit data throughout the process. So take example, let's say you want to move an input, a name from the beginning to end of a process. We need to put that name in a variable for that to become possible. Or if you want to perform any operation, you want to manipulate the data, we want to change something. Maybe we want to extract the last name of a user. The user needs to store the name into a variable before you can work with that name. Okay, and an example of a variable is just anything like A, but that it has to be assigned to something. Okay, and now in UiPath Studio, there are many ways, and I can think of 3 ways now to create variables in UiPath Studio. It's my UiPath Studio. There are many ways of creating variables in UiPath Studio. If you look through the PDF we used yesterday, there is this part of UiPath Studio called the variable panel. At that side, that is tasked mainly with creating and managing our variables in UiPath Studio. So our variable panel is located at the bottom of the screen. If we looked at it, or we looked at the document and we've explored the UiPath Studio. Now in UiPath, a variable has certain properties that may have to be configured before it can work properly. And these four properties are the name, the type, the value, and the scope. Now, the name of a variable is the unique ID. The means of identifying what the variable is. Okay, and it has to be, as I said earlier, it's unique. So it has to be one of a kind in the whole document, unless there will be a conflict, and then it would lead to errors in your process. Now the name property now is a required part. I mean, it's compulsory property of a variable in UiPath Studio. So whenever we're making a variable, we have to note that we must give it a name, give it a unique name, before we can proceed with working with the variable. Now another property is the type. And the type is also a required property. That is, it's compulsory to create, and the type just tells us what kind of variable it's going to hold. Remember, I said now that we can't expect to store data about data in form of words in the same place as data in form of images. So it is in this type property that you set what kind of data you want to store in the variable, and it's compulsory, as I said. Another property of a variable is the value. Now this value is not compulsory, but then it just helps us to create a variable with initial content, as in the case where we don't want our variable to be empty. Now we put something there in the value property, and that will initialize our variable to that piece of data or that piece of information. And okay, the last property of a variable is the scope. Now, scope, as the word implies, is a range which something can be used, a range to which something applies. Now, it is desirable in programming that some variables should not be able to be accessed outside a particular part of the workflow. So it is in this variable scope that we set what parts of our program we want our variable to be able to work in or work with. Okay. Hope you are following. The scope defines where a variable can be accessed in the workflow. Okay, it can be global or local. Now, what global or local means, now when something is global, means that it can work throughout the whole workflow. That is, from the beginning to the end, from the first activity to the last activity. And when something is local, means it's restricted to a particular set of activities. Okay, and as I said, it is not necessary, but it is helpful to make sure some variables are only accessible in particular places. Precious, what's your question?
Okay, so you are talking about variables, and you say their name must be unique. If not, they can't be reused. But sorry to bring it in context of actual programming. Like there are keywords that allow you to use to reuse a particular variable if you declare it. So we have the let keyword, we have the var keyword, we have the
Okay,
const.
so that
So
is that is in context of JavaScript, but in UiPath Studio now, no, we can't have variables with the same name. For what you said now, variables of the same name means they can have same name, but then be in different scopes. I think the let keyword allows you to use it in just one block, then it's destroyed outside the block. So I get that, but in context of UiPath now, we would want our variables to have unique names, because that can also lead to into confusion. So it is compulsory in this case. I think UiPath made it compulsory to have variables with unique names. Okay, precious. Let's continue where we stopped. So there are some best practices to naming variables. That is some methods that are suggested to use. I mean, they're not compulsory, but then it's helpful and it makes your code more readable or more reusable by other people. And I think that is a core tenet of programming, making your code making your code be reusable and accessible, understandable by other people. So the best practices include using clear and meaningful names. So what that means now, take for example, you want to store the value of someone's name. I mean, it will make sense to store it as dog, but to name it as dog or to name it as something like football. A meaningful name would be first name or last name or full name, so as the case may be, in whatever you are working with. Then another thing is we should use camel case. Now, camel case is basically using capital letters to start each word. Okay, so first of all, variable names cannot have spaces. Okay, so let's say we have something like first name now. No, first name is two words. Ideally, we would write first space name, but because variables cannot have spaces in their names, we have to use camel case to make it more noticeable where you're using multiple words. Now, since first is one word, we will make sure the first letter of first is capital letter. The name is another word. We'll make sure the first letter of name is a capital letter. So that is camel case in a nutshell. We should also assign the variable names in a consistent manner. Now, what that means is that the same naming schema we used in naming previous variables is what we should use in naming the subsequent variables. Like, take for example, if you are naming variables based on what we want the variables to do. So let's say you want a variable to be a counter. We name it as counter. That means the next variable in our workflow or project should be named based on what it's going to do. So in the case we want the next variable now to be something that tells us when and where an item is located. Now you can name that as index, because index is where a location of a variable in the programming world. So I'm just giving examples. Then the last best practice for naming variables is that the name should be short and descriptive. In programming, there's no point in naming a variable that is so long. Because it's not a bad thing, but then it just reduces the reusability of your code, or the accessibility of your code to other people. Not everybody wants to read long words, or not everybody wants to be seeing long words on their screens. So it is it's advised to keep your variable names short, and they should still have meaning. Okay, are you following?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
I have a question, sir.
Who is that? Who has a question? Put your question in the chat. Let someone answer, because I think other people are doing the same thing. So if you have a question, put it in the chat. Let's not slow the class down. When it's time for questions, I would open the floor to questions. If It hasn't been answered yet in the chat. Okay. Okay, so we talked about the properties of a variables. We talked about name, type, value, and scope. Now we've looked at the names and the naming, the best practices for naming. Now let's look at the types of variables that are available in UiPath Studio. Or actually, these are just the basic types of variables, or as programmers would say, the primitive types of variables in UiPath Studio. So we have 7 core variable types. These include string, boolean, number, date and time, data table, key item, array. Now let me test our thinking skills. So when I say something is a string, who can tell me what kind of data will be stored in a string? Eben, your hand is up. So Eben. When I say something is a string, what kind of data will be stored in a string?
Text.
It's like that's not Eben, but I think that was George. Thank you, George. Now we have, after string, another variable type is boolean. Now, what kind of variable will be stored in boolean? Candy. Please, if I don't call your name, don't answer the question.
Yes or no? True or false?
Oh.
Good evening, sir. You called my name, sir.
Who is that?
The variable that can be stored in a boolean is yes or no. Those kind of variables, sir.
Yes or no. Okay. The correct terms are true or false. But yes or no. It's on the right path. Then Chibuzo for the number. Okay, number variable is very explanatory. So Chibuzo, just tell us to see that you are here with us in class.
Just numbers.
Yes, thank you
1,
very
2,
much.
3, 4. Yeah.
Then Zion, date and time. These are simple variables. Date and time, Zion.
So I was actually expecting you to ask me a hard one now.
No, well.
Well, date and time is just date and time.
Date and time.
You store
good.
seconds,
minutes, hours, yes, and dates also. So we can store the
Yes,
dates. You can store you can store tomorrow's dates there. Our test dates there. So Pelumi. The next one is data table. Now this might be a new term. Data table. This might be a new term for most of us. So don't worry about what your answer will be. If it's not correct, it's fine. But I'm only looking for your effort. So in your own words, what you think a data table will be? Data table. Yes, data table. Data and table.
Data table should be like a sketchy framework of where our data will be, like a form of. Let me just say is form of
spreadsheet. Okay, yes. That's a spreadsheet format.
Yeah.
Yes. So thank you, Pelumi. You're actually right. It's in form of spreadsheet. There's table and it has table and rows. Sorry, that's rows and columns. The table with rows and columns. So can you meet yourself, person with a baby? Hi, Adej. The next one we have is key item. That one might be too hard, but let's give it a try. Key item. Ayodeji Mohammed.
Hello.
Yes. When you hear the term key item, variable type. What do you think that can be?
UI sense. I
SQL
have
items.
no idea. No idea.
Okay, that's fine. David Ohimai. That's fine.
Okay. A queue item, that should be a container that I think should hold a number of listed items, or let's say a unlimited number of items.
Okay, so yes, you are right. Because yeah, I mean you are right in a way, but not totally right. So you're right in the sense that there are things in a queue and you're holding something that is in a queue, but you not get the exact definition
Okay.
right.
Okay. Let's say, okay, what about the data type is multiple, maybe different
No.
types of data?
It's not multiple. Let's ask Robert's Q item in your own terms. Robert Ellie.
It's an item that has been, or data that has been extracted from a container of items that are
Container of items. Okay. Thank you very much. Give us the perfect definition of Q item. Q item is basically a data type or a variable type that holds one item that has been extracted from a queue. So as the name implies, a queue item. Just one item from a queue. And then the last one is array. Array. Daniel Chizu. Array. What's an array? Rest of you, leave your hands up. I'm still going to ask you guys questions. But Daniel Chizu, what's an array?
Okay, as the name implies, it has to do with a collective form of data. That has to do with multiple data.
Okay, multiple types of data. Yes, thank you.
Repetitive.
Yes, thank you very much, Daniel. So Chinda, Toby, Taiwo, I've got already. Precious, and Luke. So okay, we know that we talked about we've seen the 7 core variable types in UiPath Studio. But can you now can you suggest new variable types or variable types that you think might exist now in UiPath that we have not mentioned? Clinton, Toby, Taiwo, Precious, Luke. After Zion, nobody else, you can raise your hand, please. Bobue and Zion. Clinton, fast, let's make it quick. Clinton, Toby, Taiwo.
Clinton here. How about images? Is there a chance that could be a variable?
Yes, so there are image type variables. So pixels, so images
How
are
about double? How about
double.
double? Yeah.
Yes, there's double. So double is a more complex type of numbers, but yes, there's
Yeah,
double.
yeah, there's
Thank you,
double. Okay.
Precious. Thank you, Precious.
Okay.
Lower your hand. Toby, Taiwo, Luke, Zion. Okay, nobody's
Okay, sir.
talking.
Sir. Sir.
Yes. Who is
Hello.
talking now? Luke, okay.
Yes, sir. Sir, are there variables that could hold angular values in form of angles?
Angles. Sure. I've not seen that before, but then can't you just use numbers? Or in this case, doubles now. If doubles are numbers with decimal points, you can use doubles for that. But then I've not seen. I'm not saying you're wrong. I've just not seen it before. So Yeah, probably right. It's probably something there. Thank you, Luke.
Okay, sir.
Taiwo. Toby is not talking to us. I don't know why. Zion.
Okay, so it's funny nobody has mentioned integer in 32.
Integer in 32. Okay. Integer, yes. Integer is also a form of number. Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes, full
yes.
numbers.
Yes, integer.
Not string.
No, integer is not string. String is text, as we have talked about earlier. Mohammed, I've called you before, so I won't call you again. Toby, waiting
Yes,
for
sir.
your last person.
Toby is talking, sir.
Yes, so suggest quickly.
Yes, sir. My explanation of Boolean, sir. Boolean.
Yeah, we've said Boolean.
Okay.
Okay, then let's continue with our class then. Let's continue. So we are looking at the core types of variables in UiPath Studio. So there are probably over 100 other types that have not been listed here. And you can do that you can create other types in your studio. So you can see there are lists, there are dictionaries, there are mail messages. What else can I think of? There are transaction items and other things. So when you dive deeper into using UiPath Studio, you come across some, and let's in your free time during exploration, you also come across other variable types, which we might not list in the course of this lecture. Okay, now so let's look at them in details. If you have a question, as I said, put it in the chat and someone will get to you. So let's look at the variable types in details. Now we said string. String holds text data. It holds letters, a sequence of letters, or a sequence of characters that are texts. So you can store information like usernames, employee names, etc. You can store phone numbers also. So I know some people might be thinking that didn't we say number is for storing numbers only? So why are we storing a phone number in a string variable? Well, we can store numbers in strings when we want the numbers to act as pieces of text. That is when we don't want the numbers to be able to perform arithmetic or to be able to perform arithmetic operations. So that's when we store numbers in text, as in the case of storing a phone number or storing someone's age in a string variable. And we have an example here of how we can store something in a variable here in UiPath Studio. So consider we have an invoice and there's a field for name. We can extract the name of the company.
Wait, business a chop.
Who is that?
Now because I don't get anything.
Chukudi. You can store the company name in a string. And other things you can think of basically. Now for Boolean variables, we said they hold two values, yes or no, that is true or false. And Boolean variables are used mainly in control flow. So that is when we want to make decisions that someone said yes or no. So let's say in the course of our automation, we get to a point where based on what we have in our what do you call in our flow, we can put a boolean there to make sure that when we have a positive value, if you have a true value, make sure it goes one way. When we have a false value, make sure it goes another way. So booleans are used with control flow and control statements. Next type of variable we have is, or next type of core variable we have is number variable. Now, number variables store numeric data, numeric values. Like they store numbers, that's our numbers 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1 to whatever the limit of counting is, can be stored in this in the number variable. Okay. Can we see what's on my screen? Can we also see the PDF on my screen?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, good. Thank you. Number variables store integers. So I think someone said, why didn't we mention int 32? So it's the same thing as numbers. They perform the same function just to store numerical values. There's values we want to use to perform operations, mathematical operations or mathematical arithmetic operations rather. An example is storing someone's age as maybe 19, age 20, and other things you can think of. Now we have this date and time variable, which might be new to some of us. But as the name implies, it just stores dates and times of any day you want, And it can be used to calculate difference in days, difference in times, differences in basically any any timing concept, any concept of time like days, hours, even seconds. I think the lowest thing UiPath you can go down to is milliseconds. So you can even calculate difference between milliseconds in UiPath. And an example of what you can store is today's date, tomorrow's date, next week date, maybe your birth date, for example. Maybe you want to perform an operation that calculates the age of an individual at a specific time. You can ask the individual to store their birth date in a date time variable. So another variable type is data table, and these are tabular data. That is, they're like an in-memory representation of Microsoft Excel. So I guess we've all seen how Excel sheets are. You've seen they all have like a grid on it with rows and columns and squares and cells and everything. So data tables are basically the UiPath memory representation of a spreadsheet, and it is used mainly with databases because databases are a general form used to store information from different sources depending on what you're working on. Okay, and data table type. Okay, it can be used to store a spreadsheet, an Excel sheet, and etc. Now the key item variable type is actually unique to UiPath because there's this concept of queues in UiPath that uses this variable type to get items to press or to get items to work with. Now this, as I said, is used to extract items from queues. That is an ordered, let's say ordered list. So it's not really a list, but you can imagine something. Imagine the queue. Let's say imagine a queue to get to an ATM. So in that vein, imagine certain pieces of information you want to only work in a particular order. Now you would have to store those items in a queue, and then to access each item now in that order, in the order which it is, in the order which you want it to work in, you would have to use a queue item to extract those items in sequence from the queue. An example of how to use a queue item variable is, let's say an employee of a bank wants to process 50 clients in a third-party financial application. This queue, they'll get the queue from the orchestrator, and then they would extract each employee name from the queue that has been made on orchestrator. So there are still other nuances to getting to know about the queue item. And I think when we go into orchestrator as a topic, we'll look at how to work with queue items and other related concepts. The last one now among the core UiPath variable types is the array. The array is a collection of elements that are of the same data type. So now an array can, for example, it's a collection of multiple numbers or multiple strings or multiple date time variables. But an array can actually be a collection of other arrays. So an array is basically a collection of elements that are of the same type, and they are used to organize data in a set of values so that you can access them easily, so that you can access them or search through the items with ease. Even an array is not a dictionary. Dictionary is something else which you would also go into when we are working on data manipulation. But an array, okay, so an example of arrays now would be, let's say, storing the months of a year. So now we have 12 months and the names are all strings. So you can decide that okay, in our automation we want the names of the months to be stored in
You're muted.
So we can't hear anything any longer.
I think you're muted because of the noise that was coming from his end.
Sorry about that. What did you hear last? What did you hear last before I?
You were giving an example of array. You mentioned the 12 months of the year.
Okay, yes. In our automation, we want to store the names of the month in a variable and use them for a process. You will do that by putting the names in an array of strings, and then we can easily work with them. Access anyone we want to access at any point in time. So arrays add an element of convenience to working with collections. Now, I said there's some similarities between some of these core data types in UiPath, such as an array and string, There is similarity. There are some similarities between arrays and strings. And if you see, check my screen now, or check the PDF, you would see how these things differ and are similar to each other. Now, for an array, like I said, an array is the sequential collection of elements of the same data type, of similar data types. Now what that means is that an array can hold different data types, but anything in the array has to be of the same type. So you can't decide to create an array and have strings and then have numbers again in the array. It has to be either all strings or all numbers or all images, or as the case may be. While a string now is a sequence of characters which are represented as a single data type. Elements in arrays are stored contiguously in increasing memory location, while for a string, they are stored in any memory location. Okay, so what this means is that for an array, the elements are stored at specific locations in the memory. So let's see, when we create an array, first of all, sorry, I want to annotate something on the screen. When we create, because when we create something on the, when we create an array, take for example, this is an array. And we want there to be 1, 2, 3, 4 items in the array. So when we are creating the array, you will tell them, we will create the number of slots we want to be assigned in the array locations. Now, when they say, or when we say that the elements are stored contiguously in increasing memory locations. Now, let's say we start the first one at space or at location 0. The only other possible area for the next array item to be is in. Can you guys stop drawing on the screen?
I can't see anything, sir.
You can't see what I'm drawing on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Why? What are you seeing the PDF though?
No, it's just black.
It says
I can't see anything.
A blank
loading.
what I can actually see is the PDF.
Okay, but you can't.
It's just black.
I can see
black
configure.
screen.
I can
My
see
own is just
annotation.
black.
It's just black. Oh.
Like just a dark screen.
So some people can see, some cannot see. Can anyone see the drawing on the board? The red square with other things inside.
Yes, I can see. I can see.
I can't
PDF,
see
can see
anything. My
PDF,
screen
can
is
see
just
PDF.
black.
I can't see it. Oh.
Yes, I can see it.
What
I
I'm
can
saying
see
is that we're
press.
having trouble
So
connecting.
might be your network. The network that is still loading, because some people can see, some people cannot see. So, but then just try to follow my explanation now. Okay, so when we say that array elements are stored in contiguous memory, increasing memory locations. So take for example, we store the first array elements in location 0. The only other possible location for element 1, that is the next element after 0, would be in a specific or a predefined, what's it called? A predefined, what I say, a predefined number of bytes, a different number of memory locations away from the first one. So those array elements can only be stored in those specific multiples now. Let's say we want every element to hold 4 bytes or whatever your PC has determined to be the default number of memory capacity that assigned to a specific array element. You can only store items in multiples of those. So let's say we have 4 bytes, then you can only store array in 4, 8, 16, 20 until we get to the end of what we have initialized. Okay. Now for a string, you can store the data in a string in any location. So it's not specified or it's not specific to any predefined location. An array is a special variable that can hold more than one value at a time. Yes, so you can hold a collection of variable or values, while a string can only hold character data, which might be letters or numbers or symbols like star and other things. So for an array, the length of an array is predefined. So when we are defining an array or creating an array variable, we'd have to initialize it with the number of element spaces or elements locations that it can store data in. So on creation, let's say we want our array to store, let's take our array that we use to store the names of the months of a year, for example. You would have to define that array with a location of 12 because you can only store 12 names of the month. While for a string, you do not initialize it to a particular number, a particular size, that's a particular number of data, or a particular number of characters in this case. Okay. Are we following?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We are following, sir.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
More.
Now we know I talked about creating variables that if you looked at, there are many ways of making variables. There is variable panel and there are shortcuts. You can make variables on your designer panel also. So after our break, we would go into variable panels and how to manage variables in UiPath Studio. The time is 8:45. Time for our 15 minutes break. So everyone should do whatever they need to do. If you need to charge your phones or something, get it plugged in and whatever you need. And you'll meet back by 9 o'clock. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right, sir.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, you're welcome.
Sorry, sir. While the break is still
Sir.
on, can I ask for some things?
Okay.
Okay,
The
sir,
question.
I was complaining initially that my screen was black, so I didn't see what you were trying to explain then. Can you just show me now, please?
Okay, so I think I said we were talking about arrays, right? And I said that arrays the memory locations in arrays or the elements in arrays are stored in increasing memory locations. So I drew like a box, for example, a box with 5 smaller boxes in it. Okay, and that means we want to store 5 items or 5 elements in our array. Now, the way an array works is that the elements in it can only occupy specific locations in the memory. Okay, that is depending on whatever your system sets as the default memory size, because that varies from system to system. So let's say your system sets 4 bytes as the default memory size, and we put our array at location 0. Okay, are you following? We put our array at location
Yes,
0.
sir. Yes.
Yeah. Now the array items or the array elements can only be stored at location 0, then the next 4 bytes from that again, because element 1 will take the 4 bytes from 0 to 3. Okay, then next one will be on location 4, then take the next 4 bytes. The next element will be on location 8, then the next one will be on location 16 until we get to the end of our array. So that's what they meant by array elements are stored contiguously in increasing memory locations. Ebenezer.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. I now understand. So if I understood you very well, an array can just act like a kind of dictionary that stores a particular or a specific item.
So
I
don't think you should
it stores them in
don't use the term dictionary, because there is a variable type called dictionary. So
okay. Can I call it a kind of package that
can
when
call it
contains
collection.
Okay.
Yeah, collection. So continue. Listen.
Okay, it's just like a collection that stores a specific thing in
Specific
increasing
type. Yeah, specific type of data.
Okay, in increasing order.
Yes, in increasing memory locations, and also increasing order
I don't
too.
understand. I don't understand what by that increasing memory location.
Okay, let's think of it as increasing order in the computer memory.
Hello, sir. Can I ask a question?
Okay, Emmanuel.
Yeah. During the beginning of the class, actually, I'm sorry, I might have to take you back. The explanation on procedure, I didn't get it enough. I know you tried explaining better, but I do not understand. Then the box you said you were drawing on your screen, I can't see it here. I don't know if there is something I'm not doing.
So don't worry about the box. We know it's a box again. So
with that box now, I do not understand this array variable. Not even seeing what you are doing.
As I said, you don't need the box now. And if you are listening to what I just told Ebenezer, an array is just a collection of elements rather that are of the same data type and are stored in increasing memory locations. So think of like a box now. So a box of strings, and those strings are stored in specific places based on the order. So that is basically an array. If you can imagine that, then you're already imagining what an array is. But in this case now, the box is the computer memory, and the locations are also locations in the memory, in the memory space of the computer.
Okay. So, all right, no problem.
And as I said, they all have to be of the same type. So you cannot have an array that stores both numbers and strings, or an array that stores booleans and numbers. You'd have to make it all numbers, all strings, or all booleans, or all any type you want to use.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sir. Sir, God bless you for us, for your patience and your helping. Sir, please, I want to still understand what you mean by storing it. Like, is there any real life explanation on how to store in like storing it in the increasing storage location,
Okay, think, let me see. Let's say a crate. You've seen crates now, mineral crates, Coca-Cola crates now. So let's assume those crates now have numbers. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 up until 24, right?
Yes, sir.
Now that crate is like an array because you can only store bottles there, and then you can only store them in specific locations. Now you can only put them in, let's say, spot 1, 2, 3, 4. You cannot put them in between those two now. Like, you cannot put them in between 1 and 2. Has to be in 1, has to be in 2, has to be in 3, has to be in 4. Does that help?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I now understand you, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, then. Okay, Claire. Is it Claire? Oh.
Good evening.
Yes, sir. Yes, I
Good
understand.
evening. Yeah, all right. Claire, good evening.
Over the great explanation again.
Great. So,
Okay.
yes, I said that you can think of an array the same way you think of a crate or a box that has, now it's a crate because the crate is what we can all visualize. It already has predefined locations where you can keep your bottles, right? Claire, you're not responding.
No, I wasn't the one that asked the question. Somebody else asked the first question.
Okay, but you said I should.
Yes.
Who is asking the question, please? Your hand is not up. I thought that was
Oh, no.
So I said you can imagine a crate with those spaces that they have already demarcated for each bottle to fit into. Now an array is something like that now, where in this case now the crate is the computer memory. Okay. And those demarcated spaces are each element location. Okay. Now going by that, we can only keep a bottle in each specific spot. We can't keep a bottle in between two spots now because there's no space there. So in that same vein, you can only store arrays in those specific increasing locations in the computer memory. And since in a crate, we only store bottles, so likewise in an array, you only store one type of data, be it strings, be it numbers, be it booleans.
Okay, but like in increasing.
Yeah, in increasing memory location. Okay, Claire.
Okay, sorry. My question is not directly related to what you said. I've been following so far, but I have a problem. I have an issue with creating an account on the website. I don't know from the start. When I finished filling in my details, it was supposed to send a confirmation email, but it didn't do that. And subsequently, I've not been able to log in.
And you've checked other folders in your email, right? You check spam, you check promotion, you
Yes, I
check
have.
social. Okay. Okay, so send your email to me. Send my email address. I would.
Maybe confirm your email address, timileyin99 at gmail.com.
Yes, that's it.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Wow. Yeah,
Finally. Sir, I want to ask a question, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sir, yesterday when we were running the robots, I was able to do it successfully. But today, I still did it, I think, twice today. But there's a question that has been on my mind for a very long time, and I want to ask today. Sir, each time I click on the OK button on that hello world that is shown after we have run the process, it's always taking me back to the back end, which is the UiPath Studio. So I want to know if there's a way we can save it that is not going to return us back to the back end.
It has to return, because once you press OK, that's the end of the process. So it takes you back to what you were creating.
Okay, sir. Right, sir.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Emmanuel,
I asked the question concerning procedures the other time, so you are here to explain.
Who wants to explain procedure to Emmanuel? Or who understands procedure and wants to explain to Emmanuel? Nobody. Okay, so as I said, the procedure.
Let me try. Procedures are steps that are carried out.
Mr. Timile, can I try? Can I?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. So for you to fully understand what a procedure is, you have to first understand processes, and we know that processes are like interrelated activities that follow a logical sequence to for the working that you put your inputs to get your input. So the um the the process of working with your input to get your output is processes, right? Now procedure is the steps in between. It expands the process. It shows you the different steps that are involved in the process. It gives you additional information such as the description of activities to be performed, the persons that are responsible for creating processes, resources to be used, the parts of the process, templates to work with, errors that may be encountered and how to handle such errors, the expected outcome and specifications as to the process. So you have your process, and then the procedure shows you how the process can be accomplished. It breaks the process into deeper details. So that's how I understand procedures.
Okay, thank you very much, Robert. You explained it very well. So, Emmanuel, I hope you understand. I hope you've been able to at least get small
Well,
insights.
it's a bit better because actually I know that procedure will give us a more detail, but I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. So, but maybe when you give the PDF, I will.
Yes. So, okay now.
All right, thank you.
Oh, so back from break now. So anyone that did not get the chance to call, so sorry, you can type your question into the chat and let's see what will happen your classmates might answer it for you, or if I see that it's something that I think everyone should also know, I would explain it in the class. Okay, so let's continue with where we stopped. It's 9:01. So we stopped at, or we're talking about the variables panel now and how to create variables. Okay, so let me open my UiPath Studio first. Who knows where the variable panel is actually? If you know where it is, if you know where the variable panel is, can you raise your hand? Emmanuel, do you know where the variable panel is? Emmanuel Fade. Okay, Zion. Zion, you know where the variable panel is. So do you want to show us?
I know
Are you
where
on
the
your laptop?
variable panel is.
Oh, so what we should have talked earlier then.
Yeah, I was trying to unmute myself.
So do you want to show us where it is? So once my laptop finishes loading.
Okay.
Main workflow. Okay, so where do I get my variable panel from here now? Do you want to?
That's the one down on your screen. Going towards beside where we have arguments and imports. That's variable.
Okay, so yes.
Yes.
This is our variable panel. And to say we manage the variable types. Zainab is requesting control. Not today, Zainab. This is where we manage our variables, create variables, change the variable scopes. Assign default data to the variables. Remember, we talked about the 4 properties of variables. This is where we can edit or change them depending on the variable we are, or the variables we want to. So we can have the name, variable type, scope, defaults. So if I let's go back to the PDF now. The variable panel. Okay. Now the variable panel allows users to create variables and modify them. And as we have seen, it's located at the bottom of the activities panel, and by default is hidden. So that means before you can see the panel, you have to click on it and to pop up. And then it has fields for the properties of the variable, such as it has fields for name, variable type, scope, and default. I think you all know what these 4 things mean. Name, the variable name, it has to be unique. Variable type is what type of.
Sorry, I can't see anything on the screen. It's just a blank, a dark space. But I don't know if you can just stop sharing and reshare again. So I don't know if that one can work, please.
Can't see my screen. Is there anyone else having that same issue? Are we?
So I can see your screen, sir.
I can see your screen clearly. So.
I can also see your screen clearly.
Okay, let's share on share. Now, can you still see it now?
No. Yeah, I can see it now. Thank you, sir.
You said no. Nelson,
we can see your screen.
Okay.
I can see it now.
All right. So
I can't see it too.
Zainab, have you ever seen my screen in this class? I think yesterday you couldn't see my screen.
No.
No,
Wow.
my network is bad.
That is probably why. What network are you using? Zainab has left the chat.
No, I'm here. Oh.
Okay, so try and fix your network.
Okay, I'll still leave this bush.
I'll try and put your phone somewhere where you can receive network.
I'll
Maybe you
change
have
my
to,
location.
have to put it on your roof. I don't know what.
My phone on the roof. Okay.
Mr. Timile.
I'm just joking. Zainab, I'm just joking. No worries, you can check the recording until you leave the bush or your bush, as you said.
Yes, sir.
Where is the bush exactly? Where exactly is the
Ekiti.
bush? Ekiti. Okay, I'm not surprised. No offense to
But
anybody
it is
from
not bush
Ekiti.
now.
Okay, let's leave that by the side. So the variables panel now has fields for the 4 properties we talked about. So that is variables, that is name, type, scope, and default value. Default and value are the same thing. And we can edit, make changes to whatever variable we have created in our workflow. The variable panel also allows users to copy variables from one workflow to another, and we can add and edit comments to a variable. So let's see how we can do these things in our variable field. Let's create a variable now in our workflow. Is my screen moving up? Okay. I want to create a variable. Let's call the variable name. A variable name. Okay. Now you can see that in the variables tab, is the variable that I created has been put there automatically. And then you can see. Sorry?
Sir, we have not opened our system, so can you give us some minutes?
You're just watching, but okay, open your studio.
Just that, could you
Just what? So open your hello world now. That's it, hello world. Everyone should open hello world in like the next 5 minutes. Apart from those who have slow systems, but apologies to them, they will catch up with us.
Yes, 5 minutes, sir.
So can you go back and do it again?
Mr. Timile, are you there, sir?
I am here.
Okay, please, can you do that again, sir, please?
And I've not done it yet. So
Give us 5 minutes now.
When everyone is here, I'm back in like the next 2 minutes. We would once again create our first variable. I feel like everyone likes practicals more. Everyone is probably tired of hearing me talk, and they want to build. Don't worry, we'll get our time. Okay, almost everyone should be done by now, but let's wait for other people, like I said, who have
Who have
congested
slow
system.
systems? Yes, thank you.
Who is that? Who is talking?
It's none now.
Oh, no. Sorry, I did not mean to send the sub your way, but sorry.
Excuse
No
me, please.
wahala.
That suggestion is
Yes,
it's
Kieran.
better to use this software. So, like what I did, once it was 7 p.m., I just booted all the necessary softwares I'm going to, like UiPath has been ready since 7 a.m. so that when it gets to that time, it won't take so much time and you won't be frustrated.
Oh,
it's because you have like to.
yeah. So as I think someone has said, not everyone is in the same condition. Some people are just turning on their laptop now because they didn't have light to charge, so you just have to
Yes,
bear
sir.
with
Yes,
them.
sir. You are saying the truth, sir. You
You
are
have
saying
to
the
bear
truth,
with
sir.
them. You have to bear with them to the best we can without actually slowing us down. Also, you guys should, at least try to, I won't say hinder us, but at least try to make it fast, move along fast with us too. I get, they said, everyone has different conditions. So people like Nana, next time, as Kieran said, open your studio at the beginning of class.
Sir, it seems like there's not much
Yes,
difference
thank you,
between
Kieran. I'll
this
do that. Thank you.
UiPath Studio and automation everywhere.
There's no what?
It seems like there's not really much difference between the UiPath Studio and automation everywhere edition.
Automation anyway edition.
Yes, like
Automation
automation,
anywhere.
360, creating the bot.
Okay, 360. That's a different software, so I haven't looked at that.
There are a lot of differences between automation anywhere and UiPath.
Well, there's a lot of difference though, but it's seeming like almost the same thing, kind of.
Well, that might be expected because they are doing the same job, so there'll be similarities.
Yeah, yes, they're doing the same job, yes, but not the same interface or
Yeah.
so.
So there'll be similarities, definitely.
I'm almost done
We are
building my
using
first bot.
UiPath because UiPath is the best. So 5 minutes have elapsed. Everyone should have their
they do similar things and they have more advantage over Blue Prism, but they still have differences.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
So I'm just going to gauge the temperature of the class by calling our resident scapegoat. Nona, have you opened your UiPath Studio?
It's still, it's I've opened it, but it's still trying to load. I'm still trying, the yellow word is trying to load.
The yellow what?
Hello world.
Okay, hello world. Okay.
I think you can continue while we just look at what you are doing now, so that we can get some at least something before the class ends.
I believe you still get something, but let's give her and other people one more minute. So when it's 16 minutes past 9, you start creating. I think you can bear for 1 minute now.
So after opening the UiPath Studio, are we clicking on the only word open recent stuff?
Yes, yeah. Opening your hello world. Yes.
Sir?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's not right restoring dependency.
Good. Yeah, on the right path. Good.
Okay, sir. Hello, sir.
Yep.
Sir, please. I just joined the class today. So, like, this
this software UiPath Studio, how do I go about installing it or downloading it for my system?
So if you check the LMS, there is a PDF there named Installing UiPath Studio Academic Alliance Edition. Click that PDF and follow the steps there. The steps are well enumerated, well detailed. So you can just open it to your side, then follow each step one by one, and you get set up.
Sir, is it the PDF with 139 pages?
No, it's not the PDF. It's in the first section. Check before you continue. If you follow the instructions, you should have checked it before continuing. So you should have seen it there. Okay, so 1 minute has passed.
Sir.
1 minute has passed, so let's continue.
Okay, sir, the thing has opened, as in I'm not seeing the hello word there. As in, it's just writing the okay.
So let's please mute yourself. We are moving forward with class now. So let's see. I guess we all have we should have had hello world here. Let me put it back. So our screen should be like this now. It's hello world. Hello world there. So what we do in this case now, we'll clear the hello world out. Okay. Then right click in the space. I click, then from the pop-up menu, click on create variable. And then set the variable name to whatever you want to set. Yes, in this case, let's call it welcome. I'm calling mine welcome message. Okay. Have you all done that?
Mr. Similar, please, can you say it again? Sorry.
Yes.
Click where?
Right click in the message box and select create variable. Then name it. So once after you've done that and you move to your variable panel, I hope by now everyone can locate the variable panel, which is at the bottom of the screen and below the designer panel. That's below the white space. Now you will see the variable we have created there with the name we assigned to it, and then a variable type with a scope and a default value. You notice that you can change variable types now from here. So mine is of type object, and I want mine to be of type string. So I'll just click on type and change it to string. And then if I want to change the sequence, I can change it to whatever sequence applies. Because in this case, I really have one scope. Sorry, if I want to change the scope, I can change to whatever scope I have. But in this case, we really have one scope. That is this whole sequence. So the message box has to be in that scope. And then for our default value now, I can put our hello world there. So hello world. And you will see that once I run this automation, it should be the same as what we did yesterday. So it runs on it, and it brings out hello world again. Can we all see?
No, sir.
Nobody.
Yes, sir. I can see it. I can see it.
Okay, yes.
Yes, I can see it, sir, on the PDF.
Good. Yes. So you can see the hello world. So it's that. Even though we cleared out the data there and put a variable, the variable is acting as a container for this same hello world because we assigned it or we initialized the variable to have this string. Has everyone done that? Is everyone having any issues following?
No, sir.
Why
Hello,
haven't
sir.
you done that?
Sir, I did not get the. Click on the. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
Click on run. Click on run file.
Okay.
If you're having type your issues in the chat, as I said. If you're having any little issues, just type it in the chat. I think someone will answer you. But then if it's a major issue, fine, you can bring it up. Because we don't want to slow down the class on little things that we can work on with our classmates.
Yeah, it's work.
Sorry,
It's
sir.
work, man.
Okay.
Sorry,
So,
sir. After adjusting everything and writing hello world, what next do I do?
Just run your automation.
How do I do that, sir?
How do you do that? Okay. You click
Yes, sir.
on run file at the top of the design
Okay,
panel.
sir.
So,
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
okay, let's continue with our lecture. That close. Okay. Yes, so we've seen the variable panel, we've seen the types and how we can use it to adjust variables and adjust whatever variable we created, manage them, etc. Now, no, I said there are multiple ways of creating variables. Now, there are 3 ways. The first way of creating a variable is from the variable. Put it in the chat. The first way of creating a variable, and let's put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. The first way of creating a variable is from the variables panel. So on our variable panel now, you can see this this note that says create variable. So clicking on that to create a new variable for us, and then we can set it, can name it, change the type, sequence, and input a default value. Likewise, we can create a variable from the designer panel, yes. That is where we create our workflow. So we can click on, let's say we want to create a variable in this field. We want to create a new variable. We just go click on it and press Ctrl K. Okay, Ctrl and K, and that would also give us the pop-up to name our variable. And once we name it, it comes out in the variable panel. The default, the third way now would be to right click or in the properties panel. And our properties panel is here at the right side of the screen. This is the properties panel. So we can go to any field we want. So let's look at this field, for example. We can also press Ctrl K and create a variable. Or you can also right click and create a variable. So I'll come again. There are 3 ways of creating variables in UiPath Studio. Number 1 way is in the variable panel. The variables panel, you click on create variable, and you would have access to making a new one. Another method is on the designer panel. That is this whole white space where your activities are. You can click on an activity and press Ctrl K or right click and select create variable. So that will create a variable for you. And then the last way is in the properties panel, which is here on the right side of the screen. Properties. And same thing, click on a field and press Ctrl K or right click and select create variable. Now, after creating variables, we can initialize them. that is assign data them. And now I think there are two ways of doing that, of initializing data in variables. You can do it with the variables panel or with an assign activity. But for now, we only look at the one we do with the variable panel. And I think we did that earlier, where we changed the default to hello world. Yeah. So once you create a variable and you want to initialize it to a value, you do that in the default section of the variable panel. Now the next thing we do in a variable is we can remove variables also in the variable panel. That is when we discover that we have made too many variables, or we have a variable that we don't want to use again. There are two ways of doing that. So removing variables. We can go to the variable panel, then right click on a variable, and select delete. Another way is to also click on the variable. Okay, then press delete on your keyboard. So any of those methods would delete the variable from the variable panel. Okay, let's continue. Moving variables. And okay, we've all done this classroom exercise because we've all created variables, and I hope you can all work with variables now. At least work with creating, initializing, and removing / deleting variables from our workflow.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
No, sir. Who said no? I did not get
No,
it.
sir. As in, it's like you're rushing. So
You are rushing, sir. You are rushing. It's not being
you're
interactive,
rushing.
sir.
Just look at the screen. Just watch the screen as it's doing it.
Mr.
Don't worry.
Timileyin?
Don't worry. I don't think I'm rushing, but
Mr. Timileyin?
so many people are talking. I don't think I'm
You
rushing.
It's
can
not everybody that will understand by watching the
Yes.
screen.
you can
Thank
check
you
my
very
own.
much.
So I don't think
You can check the
I'm
charts, Mr. Timileyin.
rushing.
Chat with network,
But
no chat.
they know preferred you. I don't think I'm rushing. So if you still are not understanding how to, if
Sir,
you
can
are
you
not
record fast
understanding
so
how
that
to
Mr. Timileyin, can you check my own? Maybe
there's
it's correct.
too many voices. Mute yourselves. As I said, I don't think I'm rushing. I don't think I'm going too fast, but the variable is simple. Create your activity and then right click on it or press Ctrl K and create your variable. Then you can assign. I hope you have been following in class and you remember what the variable properties are and what each one does. So once you've done that, once you've created the variable, you can edit those properties in the variable panel and edit them to suit your taste or suit your working principle in this case. Because now we wanted to print out a string or hello world. That's why we set the type to string and we set the default to hello world. In your own studio, you can decide to set it to a different type. You can try to set it to Boolean or set it to, int32. And then assign your default variable, your default value rather, to a piece of data that matches that variable type, because you can't expect to assign a string to a boolean or assign a number to a number to a boolean also. So after creating variables and initializing and also removing, we can also change the scope of a variable now. I remember in the last variable I made, there's only one. I said there's only one scope because we have just one activity. Okay, and to be able to actually see this scope assignment in action, I would have to create more what you call it, more things. So if you can watch, I mean, and if you can follow along, that would be fine. But mainly watch. If you can't do it, don't worry. You're not meant to do this one. Just watch what I'm doing. Let me drop down my variables panel and reduce this also. Increase this. Okay, so now we have a normal sequence and message box. I also want to add more things. I'm gonna want to add this and this here. This here condition to be true. True. True and create another message box here. That has another variable of variables. Assign name to okay. Two variables, different scopes. Okay. Scope 2. Okay. Now this file is not declared. Okay, so can you all see my screen now? Hello, are we still
Yes,
here?
sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We can see.
So we're talking now. When we talked about scope as we want a scope is the range of the range we want a variable to to be accessible in. Now, as I created two different scopes. I named them scope 1 and scope 2. Now, we also said something about something being global and local. And when something is global, it means that it can be accessed anywhere in the workflow, while when something is local, it cannot be accessed in a particular section of the workflow. Now, our two variables, in this case now, that is welcome message and name, have the same scope. That is scope 1. And scope 1 happens to be this large one, as I named here. Now, in the case where we want to work, or we are working, and we don't want whatever is in scope 2 to access scope 1. Let's look at this now. Here I can, not that they're in the same scope, I can call variable 2 inside this scope. So I need to work because they both have the same scope, or because rather this name is, this message box is inside the scope of name. So if I run it like this now, so that there won't be any issues. Okay. Yep. There won't be any issues. So repeat this. Okay. So sorry. Let me start again. Now in our variables panel, we have two variables, and we also have two different scopes. And two different scopes. Okay, one. So give me a minute to set this up. Delete, start over, drop a sequence, drop a message box, a sequence, drop a message box here, here, create the value here, create another value here. Then change them to type. Name this sequence 1. Okay, so let's go over this again now. So I've created a workflow with two different scopes now, or two sequences, sequence 1 and sequence 2. Now these two sequences have different scopes of processing. And if you check our variable panel now in this case, now you can see that we have two variables also, the welcome message and the name I created. And if you see here, now they have two different scopes. You see, welcome message has sequence 2, while name has sequence 1. Now what that means is that for the variable welcome message, since its scope is sequence 2, which is this sequence now, this variable cannot work anywhere outside this sequence 2. So take, for example, I try to call the same variable again now. Try to use this same activity that works here. I try to put it outside. You see that an error will come up because we can't access the variable welcome message in a scope which is beyond what it's assigned to. I hope I'm making sense.
Yes, sir, perfectly.
Making sense. So because sequence, okay, good, that's good. Because welcome message has a scope of sequence 2, we can't use it outside the scope which it has been assigned. But once I change now from sequence 2 to sequence 1 now, you see that the error will clear. That means now that we can access this welcome message anywhere in the whole workflow that is inside sequence 1. And I mean, likewise, in another sense, we can access this name variable now. Remember last time we assigned welcome message to sequence 2. Okay. And name to sequence 1. Now, because of the way scopes work, or the range of scopes work, is that because sequence 2 is inside sequence 1, we can access the variables in sequence 1 in sequence 2. You see now we can access name here, and we won't get any error. Unlike last time when we tried to access welcome message outside and we get an error. So let's watch what the document explains about scopes. The scope field determines the containers in which a variable is available. Okay, and when a variable is created, the user chooses the scope from this drop-down field where all major sequences and sections of the program are listed. The user chooses one of these sequences of the variable, and the variable will then be available in that part of the workflow. Okay. If a variable is declared for a parent activity, then the variable is available in the entire workflow. So what that means is that, like what we did now, this sequence 1 is the parent activity, and since name is in sequence 1, you can use it anywhere within sequence 1, even if it's in a different sequence. But as far as that sequence is inside sequence 1, we can use the name variable. And okay, they didn't say anything about. Okay, they also said the scope of a variable cannot exceed the workflow in which it was defined. So that summarizes what we did before when we tried to access welcome message now outside of sequence 2. Because it was not defined for that scope, you get an error in UiPath and it won't work. So I'm continuing. Introduction to the scope of a variable. Okay, we've talked about scope and we talked about how to do it. Is that class 1? That person mutes themselves. Not disturbing. We've talked about the scope of a variable. We talked about how to change the scope. Does everyone understand what variable scope is now? Does everyone understand?
To be honest, I'm lost though.
Who is lost or who is not lost? If you are lost, raise your hand. Let me explain again. No talking. Just raise your hand. Just raise your hand, and I'll explain the scope again. Let me see how many people are lost. Okay, we have 7, 8, 9, 8 people, 9 people having issues understanding, 11 scope. So let's go over scope again now. So a scope is the scope in UiPath is the range of activities where a variable can be accessed or where a variable can be used. Okay, and there are some rules or there are some procedures which scopes follow to help programmers or to help developers work without confusion. Now, after in UiPath Studio, after creating your variable in your variable panel, you can change the scope that each variable has been assigned to in the panel under the scope section. Okay, so it's in name variable scope. Then click on what variable you want to edit and select the scope you want it to apply to. Okay, and now something about scopes is that when you have a parent activity, or that's when you have a level, an activity on a higher level than this one. Like this is level 1, this is level 2, sequence 1, sequence 2. When our activity, or when the scope of a variable is set to the parent activity or to a level higher, any activity inside that parent activity can access that variable. Does that make sense? When you set a variable scope to a high level one, any activity inside that same scope, so any sub activity, yes, we can think of it that way. Any activity inside this high level, this level 1 scope, can access this level one variable. But variables now inside this level 2 scope cannot be accessed in level 1. Sorry, cannot be accessed in level 1 because it is out of the range. And we proved it by assigning we assigned welcome message to sequence 2, and you can see sequence 2 is inside sequence 1. And the first part, now we put the first part by testing if we can access name inside sequence 2, and it proved possible. But then we cannot access welcome message inside sequence 1 because it is out of scope. Did that help anyone? Level 2 be accessed inside level 1. So level 2 cannot be accessed inside level 1. So because level 1 has a wider scope than level 2. But level 1 can be accessed inside level 2 because level 2 is inside the scope of level 1. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does make sense.
Okay. So
please can you come and give me that
let's quickly
statement? Level 1. Sorry. Can you come and give me that last statement?
We have two
level
levels,
1
level
can
1
be
and level 2. So
okay.
level 1, now we are just talking in context of this one I have on my screen with 2 levels, 1 and 2. So variables in level 1 can be accessed in level 2 because level 2 is inside level 1.
All right.
While variables in level 2 scope cannot be accessed in level 1 because the scope of level 2, sorry, does not encapsulate everywhere in level 1. It does not cover everywhere in level 1. Do you get that? You get
So,
that?
sir, with that, you can say sequence 1 is a global scope, while sequence 2 is parent, as in
2 is local.
the child.
It's local.
Yes, local.
Yeah, sequence 2 is local. And sequence 1 is global.
Yeah.
Nona, did you get that? You
Yes,
understand that now?
thank you. Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. So the last thing for today is to look at arguments. Now, when you hear the word arguments, don't think it's not quarreling or talking about having differences in opinion. An argument in UiPath context is similar to a variable. Okay, but then the difference is that while we use variables to transfer data from one point to another in the same workflow, you should note this down, in the same workflow. Yeah, an argument is used to transfer data between workflows. Okay, variables work within the same workflow, while arguments work between different workflows. And beyond that, there are 3 types of arguments. There is the in argument, out argument, and in-out argument. Before we get to that, let's look at what's it called, arguments. Arguments also have their own properties. Now we talked about variables having 4 properties, which are name, type, scope, and value. Yeah. So arguments have their own 4 also: name, direction, type, and value. So the name, type, and value are the same as the ones for variables, but the direction is defining in what way, in what direction what the data is being passed. So remember I said arguments work by transferring or help us transfer data between 2 variables. Okay, and I think I would like to draw something now, but I'm scared that everybody will see what I'm drawing. So, let me do this instead. So can we all see this? See the paint?
Yes.
Paint, yes. Okay, now so let's assume we have 2 work. Yes, you have this workflow. This one workflow. Don't mind my drawing. No, I'm not. This is another workflow. Okay. Now, ideally, these 2 workflows are in isolation, but then it might happen that we want to get data from workflow A or workflow 1 to workflow 2. And to do that, we'll use arguments to transfer that data. And now the argument direction comes into play in telling us how we're going to be able to send data from one to another. So let's say we want to send data from 1 to 2. So look at it, to be going this way, right? So what that means is that in workflow 1, we create an out variable. Let's just call it O. Let's call it O. And in workflow 2, we create an in variable because it's coming into 2, going out of 1. Is that making sense?
Yes.
Likewise, if you want to send from
Yes, sir.
2, if you want to send from 2 to 1, same thing. You would create an out variable.
Okay, that means the type will be in and out.
No, so no, we are creating in each workflow. So in 1, you create an out variable. Then in 2,
Out argument,
you create
you mean,
an
sir?
in variable. So out argument, thank you for that.
Argument.
An out argument in 1 and an in argument in 2. These are the 2. These are two type. Then there's a third type, which is the in out. Now that one basically combines the two other ones, so it can go this way and it can also go this way. Okay. So it will be in out. So in it will be in slash out, and this will also be in slash out. So I know people might be wondering, why don't you just use in and out every time, since that one just helps us. But then it's best practice to actually use in and out only when you need it, because that can open your argument to mistakes. Because you might mistakenly change something in arguments in workflow one that I didn't want to change before, because it can take arguments in both ways. Okay. So I hope that explains the concept of arguments to everyone. Do we all get that?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So then,
hello, sir.
Arguments. Yes.
Yeah, the in argument. I try to think that I don't think there's really a big difference between that in argument and a variable, because like in argument is we can use it within that
the
workflow.
difference, man. The difference is in the definition. Remember, I said a
different workflow.
A variable. Yes, a variable works in the same workflow, while arguments send to a different workflow. So you cannot use a variable in place of an argument. And likewise, you can't use arguments in place of a variable.
Yeah, okay. What I'm saying is that what's the major difference between the in argument and the out argument now?
Is the direction of which they are sending. If you were looking at in arguments receives data into the workflow, out arguments sends data out of the workflow. While in and out can do both. Both processes can send in, so it can receive in and send out. So likewise in Studio, as we have a variable panel, we also have an arguments panel, which is beside the variable panel. So it's variable and there's arguments, and we create the arguments the same way as we did in variable. We'll click on create arguments, then put in our properties. As for the ways we can create arguments, so that there are, I think there are 3 ways. I'm not sure. Let me confirm. There are 3 ways also. True. So from the arguments panel, we've all seen that. From the designer panel, so let's take this sequence again. For example, we can either go to the place you want to create the variable, then either press Ctrl M or press or right click. But then it's advisable to use right click, because Ctrl M actually creates only in variables. So in most cases, if you want to create sorry, I keep saying variable, arguments can only create in arguments.
So that means any argument that is created, you can't change the type.
You can change the type in your arguments panel. So look at this now. Create an in argument. Create and name it data sent. This. Now look at the arguments panel now. There's an argument here. We can change our direction in the arguments panel. Same way we can change our scope in the variables panel. We click and select the one we want, change it to out or change to in out. Okay, so another way of creating an argument is.
Sorry, sir.
I want to know. Breaking, sir, the other time.
Sorry, I want to know.
You said
Is this
after
in out?
There are too many people are talking at the same time.
Okay, sir. As in the first part, you said that we should control M, which is under the sequence 1 message bus. We are going to write name and press create control M, which is what create in argument. That's
So
what
I
you
said
said for the first one because network was very.
So did anyone? Okay, so as I said, let me go over it again. Then I guess we call it a day because it's 10 o'clock already. So creating
Can I
arguments.
ask my question, sir?
Same way. Let me go over the arguments first. Then you can ask a question. So for the creating arguments now, the same way we had 3 methods of creating variables in UiPath Studio. We also have 3 methods of creating arguments in UiPath Studio. Method 1 is in the arguments panel, which is located beside the variable panel. Yeah. So there is a create arguments button there that you click, and then you can have access to creating arguments and changing the names, changing the direction, and changing anything you want to change. The next method is in the designer panel, which is where we put our activities. We can either right click in the field you want to create the arguments, or you can press Ctrl M or Ctrl Shift M. Ctrl M creates an in argument, while Ctrl Shift M creates an out argument. But because some people tend to mix it up. It's better to create right clicking on the field. That way you can see what you want to do. And the last method of creating an argument is in the properties panel on the right side of the screen. So likewise, you can Control M, Control Shift M, or right click. Did you all get that? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Control M. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, so we'll continue from there tomorrow. I mean,
Thank you
you
very
go
much,
again
sir.
with our normal formats. You revise, so you guys should prepare for it. Remember, I said there'll be a test tomorrow, so you guys should prepare, read everything we've done, and I would see you guys tomorrow. And okay.
Please, thank you very much.
Who is that person?
Thank you very much.
So for people those that have their hands up, I'll be taking your questions now. I can see in the chat people are leaving. Nona says her head is full. Pokola is laughing for some reason. Uche, thank you, Uche. Okay, so for questions now. Pelumi. Pelumi. George. Lamide George.
Good evening, sir. Mr. Sorry.
Good evening.
Is that I'm having a little bit challenge on the how to sequence 2. Whenever I put a sequence, it brings something else on there. Yeah. Please, can you just repeat that side? How to?
You said whenever you bring a
sequence 1. Yeah, I don't know where to go to click on to bring the sequence.
Yeah, so as I said you don't need to build that. I was just doing that to explain the concept of scope and how you can't access something in a scope that is larger than it. I can access variables in scopes that are embedded or inside the named scope. So like how I said, you can access level 2 outside outside level 1, but you can access level 1 inside level 2. So don't worry about building it just yet. When we get to that point, we would look at that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, all right then. Eben.
So, thank you for the classes today. So, I've been raising my hand for a long while. Though, my first question is coming from the first part, which is the variables. You said the variables are best with camel letters. So I was now asking, since there will be no space, could we use underscore or hyphens to make spaces?
You cannot use hyphen. You can use underscores, but I mean, you can use underscores, but as I said, those were just best practices. So things that UiPath advises you to use, but you can use underscores, not hyphens, though, in place of space.
Okay, sir. So second question is coming from the aspect of the last thing we said now, which are arguments. I'm still trying to understand it in real life expression. I want to know, are they like the if and else in programming and elif?
No, we have if and else in UiPath, so there are different things entirely. They are not. I mean, you can think of how do I put in programming terms? Imports, looking at imports. Can think of them as there's nothing that I can say in programming terms, but I mean, you can imagine the way we import modules into other modules in whatever programming language you are familiar with. So in that vein, an argument allows us to import data from one workflow to another workflow.
Just like function, already. Because there is a function in Python.
Functions, okay. Functions in Python. I'm not sure it's functions in Python. No, I don't think it's functions in Python.
Like creating two arguments.
But Eben, did you get what I said there now? Or did you at least get?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
God bless you, sir.
Oh, you're welcome. Emmanuel F A D.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Emmanuel.
Yeah, I have some questions. First, when you were explaining arguments, differentiating between argument and variable, is it that I understand the concept of the variable that it interacts between workflows, but that of argument.
That is argument.
No.
Argument is one that goes between workflows.
Okay. Well, variable interacts between the sequences that are inside a particular workflow, right? Are you with me, sir?
Yes.
Okay.
Variables. Okay. So
it means that now let me take for instance the hello world that we created. It's under main. So does it mean that the argument will be able to interact between main and another workflow that will be created? Is that what it means?
Yes. So let's say we and like now how we put an you create an argument that is named, what should we call it, welcome message, and set it as out.
Okay.
So that means now it can send the value of that welcome message out to another workflow.
Oh, okay.
Let's say we create a different one to compile names. You can send that hello to that other one, and that one will be able to access it.
All right. Then the second question is that when you were trying to give your argument a name, so under the direction, we have the in argument, the out argument, the in out argument. So there's one other one that I saw there that was property, which you did not talk about.
So that property is actually, it's from my system. It's not a type of variable, it's just something that let me see. Property. So for this property, I'm not sure what it is exactly myself. But according to UiPath, there are three types. Ouch. Three types of arguments. So I don't think you should not be bothered about that property.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. And if I see something, I would tell you. But then I don't think you should be worried about property. So next person is honesty, LRB. Honesty. Yes, hello, honesty.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you for the class so far. But I've been trying to follow up to catch up with this the second sequence you created. I didn't follow through with that.
Yeah, so I said, you don't need to build that sequence. I just did that to explain something to us about how arguments, how scope of variables work rather. Let me withdraw something that I guess you can probably understand it. So let's assume we have two sequences like so. We have this sequence. We have this, and then we have this. So this is level 1, this is level 2. Now the way the scope of a variable works is that whatever variable, let's say we have a variable here, A. A variable in scope A now, scope 1, can be accessed in scope 2. But a variable in scope 2 cannot be accessed in scope 1. You get me? That's why I just did that automation to help you guys visualize what will happen if you try to put variables in scopes where they cannot be accessed.
Sure.
Yeah, so you didn't have to build that automation along with me. I just did that to see. But do you understand now the concept of variable scopes?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
All right. Luke.
Yes, sir. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Okay, sir. Please, I want to ask concerning this
the material for that we can use for reading, like where can we get the material for?
So the materials are on the LMS, access on the website.
Okay, sir. Well, sir, I want to ask, like, I have already created my account. The last thing that is remaining is that it's telling me that I need to confirm my email. That they sent me a mail, but I have not received any mail. Like, it keeps on. When I refresh the page, it still keeps on showing me that
Have you checked?
before I can.
Have you checked your mail very well? Check all the
Yes,
folders in your mail.
I've checked it very well. I've not seen any mail. It's telling me that it failed to send me a confirmation mail. I keep on refreshing, trying to say, okay,
Okay,
we
send
send.
me your email address. Send it
Okay.
to me. Yeah, my email is in the chat. So. Okay, Rachel. Rachel Akinola. Okay then.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Hello, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Rachel.
Yes, sir. Sir, my own question is about the UiPath Studio. I am the orchestrator particularly. It's saying orchestrator not connected. And when I tried to sign in, it was showing orchestrator URL and all that. And I don't know how to go about that, sir.
Okay, Rachel. So for now, you don't need to worry about that. As you can see, my own. I also don't have my orchestrator connected. But when we get to that point, because it's a full-blown topic on its own, so we'll check how to log in to Orchestrator, how to create an account on Orchestrator, and how to use it.
All right.
But I mean, I guess you know what Orchestrator does, right? You know what?
Yes, I do.
But well, okay, good, Rachel.
Thanks, sir.
You're welcome.
Sir, I had you. That's balloon.
Balloon.
You've already answered my question.
All right, then. Maybe there's an echo in your audio. So I think this is switch. Turn off one of your devices. Okay, break with me, Thomas. How are you and what is your question?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Okay. So you asked how I am. I'm not fine.
Why are you not fine?
I don't know whether I should blame network or that my platform, my UI, my studio is still not functioning for me to follow up on what happened in today's class.
Okay.
Yesterday's challenge still repeats itself today, and I've installed the studio again. I used the link they said we should use to download the new version.
Okay. So what you should do, take a screenshot of where the error is happening or what error message is, and send it to my mail so I'll be able to communicate back with you.
It doesn't give me an error message. It just if I run if I run a file, it will just give me the same thing I ran without results.
Okay. Are you on your laptop now?
Yes, I am.
Yeah,